Just gonna fold them together a little bit. And this one you'll actually be able to see the marbling a little bit better, so that's gonna be pretty good. See the very strong marbling right now. And then I'm gonna be able to actually show you the progression better, because it's gonna be a very distinct contrast. So just roll it, like I explained before, stack it and bend it, and then roll it out again. And then same thing. Alright, and this is looking pretty good. So I'm going to roll them up into a ball. Move this over here. Alright, I'm going to flatten it out. I'm going to start making a little cupcake cup. So I just made a cylinder. Then I'm going to flatten it out. And I'm going to roll it more narrow at the bottom. You can see. I'm going to flatten it out again. Do the same thing. Flatten out again. Now he looks like this. And I'm going to start pulling up the sides a little bit and pinching. So there's like a little indent, like, or a little crater in the bottom inside of this piece. See, like that? And then I'm just going to even out the edges. I'm going to keep pulling until I like the shape. And that'll just give you a good little cup shape. And also it'll sit your little little cupcake dude little top right in there. And I'm making it even too, like I'm looking at the sides and saying, oh, is that even? And I'm fixing it if it's not. And then I'm kind of actually what I'm doing is I'm sitting it down a little bit right there, face down, and then I'm going to flatten the bottom a little. Okay, so now I'm testing the size. That's close. I want to narrow it down just a little bit. Just narrow, make it a little bit more. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to put some TLS down because that's going to help him glue together. Just a little tiny bit. It just makes me feel better. It's not really necessary, it just makes me feel better. Because I'm going to be putting an eye pin through. And I'll show you how to do that as well. So I've got my little cupcake, and I've got my little cupcake cup, and I'm gonna fix him up a little bit. I'm gonna kind of press the cupcake cup in a little bit so the cupcake kind of sits more over it. Just looks a little better. There we go. Got that. Flattening up the bottom. And also I'm going to use my needle tool to make the little indents. This is how you get away without a mold. So you got to do this. You sit there and you hold it like that, and you press in the little indents all the way around. It's kind of hard with the way I'm holding it, the angle, trying to show you, but you get the idea. So I'm just going to do that all the way around. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You want it to have a little bit of character. So don't worry about it if it's not pristine. So I'm just kind of pushing down the tops now because it didn't get connected all the way. And this is where the edge of the cupcake top meets the edge of the cupcake cup. And I just made it so you pulled it down a little bit from this edge. I'll show you. This edge down. So it's a little bit of a separation, so it just looks more dimensional. And I like that quite a lot. I think that looks good. So now I'm going to show you how to put his little face on. So I've got a little needle tool, or a little ball tool, sorry. And these you can get from any nail supply or beauty supply store. I got mine off of Amazon for like $2 or something like that. So I'm going to figure out where I want his eyeballs. And I think they're going to be really cute right here on this lighter side. So I'm going to put them, gonna put a little hole or a little indent right here. So here's the one, and then I'm gonna go across, get another one, and he looks pretty good. So here's little eyeball holes, and I'm gonna get some brown clay, and I'm going to just make little tiny pieces. I'm just gonna condition a little tiny piece real quick. And then pull off little tiny bits. And so this is actually going to become, this little tiny piece is actually going to become 2 eyeballs. So you take that, and you just cut it in half, and you roll it up, and stick one in there. Got a little spare piece of clay. And stick the other one in there. This is what he looks like now. And then I'm just going to press, I'm going to take the same end and I'm going to press his eyes down like that. So they're concave. And do the same for this one. Alright, and if you need a little bit more clay for one eyeball, it's not a big deal. Just roll up a little more, put it here, and then you press it out. And I'm just kind of fiddling with it a little bit. And here's what he looks like now with his cute little eyeballs. And I'm going to be making a mouth. The mouth is just going to be a tiny little thin line of clay. I know some people paint it on, some people don't do a tiny little mouth of clay. I like the challenge, and it's not really that bad. If you're working with Premo, it's pretty easy. Premo is very, very good for that kind of thing. It's got a little tiny piece. Little tiny piece. Rolling it out, blunting the ends, because you want a smile, a nice clean smile. So I've got this little tiny piece of clay. This little one, right, if you can barely even see it. Right there. And I'm going to place it right underneath in the middle. I didn't like that one. So I'm going to try it again. There we go. That looks like it's about the right thickness. Alright, and I got that. That's what he looks like right now. I'm going to make him a little happier. And then you're just going to pat it down once you got the shape that you want. I think he looks pretty cute. His little happy face. And I'm just gonna incorporate a little bit by doing a little bit more of the dots down at the rim, because they didn't get a lot of touching last time. And do that. A little bit more. And I'm just gonna there we go. Cute. Alright, now I'm gonna mix a little bit of icing. I've got some left over from another cupcake that I did. So for that, I'm just using lemonade. Lemonade color clay, and this is just SculpeyIII. I'm not I switch between SculpeyIII and Premo, and also I use a little bit of Fimo too, depending on what I want to do and what effects I want. So I'm just stretching this way out, see it's almost transparent, and I'm just sticking it down in the bottom of this, because you need it to be really thin so that it's easy to blend. So you do that, and just little pieces. Stick it in there. And there we go. And you want to use translucent Sculpey, liquid Sculpey, short, TLS for short. So, and that will make a little frosting type consistency. So I'm using equal parts TLS to actual clay. I found that that works pretty well. So I'm just going to mix it together with a toothpick. And you want to wait until, at least for frosting, or I at least want to wait until it's not stringy, but it holds kind of on and it doesn't break very easily. It's kind of pretty elastic, is what I'm trying to say. That's the consistency that I'm looking for when I'm making frosting type designs for my work. So this is pretty elastic. See how it doesn't break very easily and it just kind of strings along? And that's what I want. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking a little bit and I'm sticking it on the little dude. I'm kind of doing the edges now so that I kind of know where I want it to be. And I kind of make a little hairdo with the icing just because I think it's cute. So I just kind of, see how I'm twirling it around? I don't know if you can. I'm twirling it around. Just making a little design, kind of. And so it's like that. It looks like that right now, which I think is cute because he's got a little bit of a hairdo. I'm just trying to make him a little more personified. There we go. He's where I want him now. His little hairdo. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to reestablish his lines a little bit, because his little cupcake lines got a little messed up when I was working on his frosting hairdo. So we got that. And I'm fixing it. And then I'm going to clean him up with nail polish remover, and I'll show you how to do that. Because it just gets some dust off. It's nearly impossible to keep everything spotless all the time. So let's do that. So I've got a little Q-tip, and I've got some nail polish remover, just regular any kind will work. You can also use alcohol. I just didn't have any at the time that I was filming, so I just used nail polish remover. And you'll see that there's a little bit of pigment coming off of the clay. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It doesn't take anything off of your sculpture. And you won't be able to notice it when you're baking or anything. It just, you know, that's just what happens. But it will get the dust off. And this is also very useful because it will smooth out the fingerprints that you may leave on your pieces just through the act of the process of molding everything together. Alright, so we've got that all cleaned up. And I'm going to put an eye pin in. Excuse me. So let's find my eye pins, because I'm going to be making a charm. So I've got this little packet of, actually it's going to be a head pin, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off and I'm going to bend it. And I will go get my pliers for the next video and I will show you. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick it in there and then I'm going to bake this little dude. So you stick it right in through the icing. Oopsie. I'm going to fix that up a little bit. Alright. Sorry about that. He's right as rain. So I'm going to stick that right through the icing if I don't knock him over again. And make a hole. The top. Alright. And I'm just going to leave that in there and I'm going to bake him like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit more icing. And go. Cool. And I'm just putting a little icing a little bit down onto the needle too, because I want it to stay in place. There we go. And so there he is now with his little eye pin. And I will go bake him. Okay, so I've got this little guy fresh out of the oven, and what I am going to do is I am going to glaze him. So we've got this, and I'm actually going to use something similar to what I used for this dude, which I made for my needle tool. And I used a satin glaze on the bottom and a gloss glaze on the top. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Got my brush. It's a very fine point detailed brush right here, so it's for detail work. And these work really well. So I got my satin glaze. It's made by Sculpey. It's pretty inexpensive and it lasts a long time. You don't really need to stir it. I shook mine up again a little bit, but you don't need to do too much. And I'm just brushing the glaze on, see? And that's also going to help smooth out fingerprints if you left any of those from the molding process. So I'm just brushing that on. And I'm going to use gloss on the cupcake icing because I think that's really going to work better. Putting it on the bottom, because this little dude's actually going to be a charm, which is why he's got the head pin sticking out of him, because I'm going to turn that into a loop when he's all done. So I just have to glaze him, and you can do 1 or 2 coats or whatever you want. And they have to set for 30 minutes in between. So just let them dry for that long. And they're pretty smooth. From my experience, you just kind of brush them down a little bit. You don't have to be super fussy with them, but they turn out pretty smooth, so I'm happy about that. I'm just going back over. And this head pin actually helps a lot too with that, because you don't have to touch the piece when you're glazing it, which is helpful. I really like that a lot. So I'm just getting the bottom. So this is what he looks like now, or at least his little satin part. And then I'm gonna do the gloss. And what I normally do with my clays after I glaze them is I just stick them in a little block of clay, like just to let them dry, because it's kind of like I'm lazy and I don't have to, you know, I don't want to mess with them. I'm not just going to sit here and hold this for 20 minutes. So I'm going to poke them in. See, right now I'm just poking them in to let them sit in the clay for a minute while I open up this gloss glaze. And blow them up. And glaze the top. Because frosting looks kind of shiny anyway. And I'm laying this on pretty heavily. And I'm also going around the edge of the eye pin, or the head pin rather, because I want it to really stick in there. And this is going to smooth out, but I still want it to be emphasized. And I'm just putting a little bit in the eyeballs just to give a little bit different of a look there. I'm going to do it in my other piece too, because I forgot. Just to, you know, differentiate a little bit. Make it a little more interesting. Alright, so there's that, the cupcake top, all done, the frosting and the satin glaze. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick him upside down, stick him in this block of clay, and let him dry. I know some people hang their charms. Some people like just put them on separate pieces of clay and glaze little bits at a time. I like to do this because it's easy. And I'm always using my white clay anyway, so, you know. So there is that, and I'm going to let them dry.